Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. On the show today, we will get in to some more Sark audio from Monday, talking about Oklahoma State and Texas in that giant Big 12 championship game and what it could mean. Play some sound from Sark talking to ESPN, giving his pitch, starting pitch, why Texas should be, considered into the college football playoff. We'll also have the Big 12 football awards were announced today. We'll give you the winners from Texas and honorable mentions and all of that. Get into that. Maybe a snub or two that were on that list as well. Get into some NCAA football talk about the conference championships, some NFL, some NBA, and a whole lot more here on the Sports Complex. And, of course, your text, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776 is the text line number. Send them in right there, whether you've got questions or comments or you got something you want to talk about. We love to get to what you want to talk about here on the Sports Complex. Joining me today, since we're going to be doing a big show on Friday, if you've not heard, we're going to be doing 4 to 7. Aaron Hogan is going to be in Arlington or in Dallas at Terry Black's Barbecue on Friday with some special guests. We'll be having all that from 4 to 7, talking Big 12 championship, talking about the Texas season, and then a big pregame show, 8 to 11 a.m. as well, where Aaron will be in Arlington. We'll be back here in the studio doing that. But joining me today, my man, Jacob Standard. So, Jacob, you doing good on a Wednesday?
I'm doing great.
It helps if we turn your mic on. There we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Did we get you? Did we get you? You in there?
Are we on?
There it is.
Hey, there it is. Oh, so I'm doing better now that everybody can hear me. That's fantastic. But yeah, no, it's not quite the end of the week. I can't use my "we made it" line, but I'm ready to go. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It's good. We're going to get some picks in because we got a big show coming up on Friday, so you can't come in on Friday because we'll be packed. It depends now. And Ty may come in on Friday or Saturday. We don't know where Ty's going to be. And then Rod, we know, is recovering or dealing with sickness right now, so hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. But we'll get into a lot of Texas football talk here in the beginning of the 6 o'clock hour. Leading off, of course, let's talk about the Big 12 football awards were announced today. I was happy to see that, at least for the most part, it feels like they did not punish Texas players for Texas moving to the SEC. We know Jalen Ford last year, that was a big conversation that it seemed like Jalen Ford should have been the defensive player of the year. He was not. And, you kind of wondered. And so there may still be some bias, but I think there's more bias. They were trying to get more teams in and, maybe a little bit, but not as much because we did get the defensive player of the year. Is a Texas Longhorn this year. T'Vondre Sweat does get his defensive player of the year award. Texas also gets the offensive newcomer of the year. Adonai Mitchell is on that. Did not get the defensive newcomer of the year. I believe Anthony Hill was a honorable mention for that.
He was.
But he did not get that award. So, but that's okay. We can, Adonai Mitchell gets on there. T'Vondre Sweat gets on there. And Sark mentioned on Monday what his hope was that we would see T'Vondre Sweat get defensive player of the year and Byron Murphy not be ignored and get defensive lineman of the year. And I guess the writers and voters were listening because Byron Murphy does get defensive lineman of the year. So both guys do get honors in the Big 12 awards, which is a really cool thing to see. Defensive freshman of the year, Anthony Hill, and splits that with Ben Roberts. So we get to see Anthony Hill get in there in the defensive freshman of the year award. Some good honors also in we will mention that the coach of the year does not go to Steve Sarkisian.
Who did it go to?
The 11-1 Steve Sark does not get coach of the year. It goes to who we're playing on Saturday, Mike Gundy.
Oh, that makes sense. I get that.
They really?
Yeah, I get that.
So I'm just gonna throw this out. I know it's a Big 12 award, so they probably were not looking at non-conference.
Right.
Because if you look at non-conference, Texas went to Alabama and won.
Oh, does that mean something?
And Mike Gundy had South Alabama come to them, and they lost.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get that. It's a conference award, though, like you said.
It's a conference award,
yeah.
So within the conference, now still they lost 2 conference games, but they did well in the second half of the season. I think the argument could definitely be made that Sark should have been the guy. I think they're saying that Gundy did more with less.
Bingo.
Is
That's
what
exactly
they're going
where I was
with.
gonna go. Yeah.
And they know he's going to stay around for a long time because he has that revolving contract that constantly
Yeah, break that down for me again. How
that
does that one go?
contract that renews every year, so it's always a 5-year contract. So it just constantly is a renewing contract.
But it's always the first year of the contract.
It's always the first year again. Yeah, so it just keeps renewing, and it's always got 5 years left on it every single season, which is a great deal if you can get it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look, we saw Mike Gundy was a guy that early in the season when they were having the non-conference problems, that a lot of people were thinking that he may be getting closer to the end, and people were, there was talk, some turmoil that.
He started 3 quarterbacks for the first 3 or 4 games of the season.
And so people were a little bit curious about what was going to happen. He ends up turning around. He's playing for the Big 12 championship now, so all those talks are completely done.
Yeah.
And, it's college football, so those talks are always going to pop up anytime you have a bad start. I don't know how much Oklahoma State was really getting into it and the boosters and everybody else about it, but he does win Coach of the Year. We also see the all Big 12 first team. Xavier Worthy is on that team. Jatavion Sanders is on that team. Kelvin Banks Jr. is on that team. Bert Auburn gets on that team, and Xavier Worthy gets on the team yet again as the kick returner, punt returner. So he's on there as a wide receiver and kick returner, punt returner, which is a good lineup and good stats for Xavier Worthy. On the defense, we get Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat. No questions there, and Jalen Ford is also on that first team, all Big 12. You maybe could see Jahdae Barron get in there, but I think because of the issues they've had in the secondary, he gets knocked down to second team, all defense. But you could have seen him in there. Adonai Mitchell is all second team. And Jonathan Brooks, which if it was me, I would put Jonathan Brooks above Ollie Gordon and Taj Brooks. I get they played more games now this season. I think Jonathan Brooks is a better player than either one of them. And we saw Taj Brooks. He was a good player. We're going to see Ollie Gordon this week.
Yeah, and I'm not upset with Jonathan Brooks getting bumped down to second team on that one. Just because he is not playing anymore. It's unfortunate, but yeah. I get that one. He also got honorable mention for Offensive Player of the Year.
He did.
So, I mean, they're giving him his love.
Yeah, he did get and Kelvin Banks got honorable mention for Offensive Lineman of the Year as well. CJ Baxter gets Offensive Rookie of the Year honorable mention as well. And then a bunch of honorable mentions for the Big 12 all first and second team for Texas as well. I'll go through them real quick for you. Terrence Brooks, Ethan Burke, Trell Carter, Keaton Crawford, Alfred Collins, Quinn Ewers. Keaton Crawford was actually the Special Teams Player of the Year. He was a runner-up for that. And we also get Quinn Ewers on there, Gunnar Helm, Anthony Hill, Christian Jones, Jake Majors, Ryan Sanborn, Baron Sorrell, Michael Taff actually gets on there. Pretty crazy from a walk-on to being an honorable mention there.
Michael Taff, man.
Jaron Thompson and Jay Witt, Jordan Whittington are all on that honorable mentions list for the Big 12 awards. If you guys on the text line feel anybody was completely screwed and you feel crazy about it, text in and let us know who you think. We'll put that in the polls. We'll put that in there. We'll ask you guys. But I think it was I was a little bit worried after last year and then seeing that they're going to be out, that, they could have basically taken all of them out and the voting wouldn't have been there for guys that really, really deserve to be there. I think Quinn Ewers could be all second team as well. I think Dylan Gabriel, probably because the games, because he won head-to-head, is going to get the nod above him with Quinn Ewers having the injury. But I think Quinn could have easily been above Will Howard. Yeah,
I think so. And I think just same thing with Jonathan Brooks, just the injury just kind of knocks him down a notch.
So if we take those injuries as the reason why, but if you guys disagree with anything on that list, send it in on the text line, 512-447-3776. Is there anything you saw on that list, Jacob, that stood out to you?
Yeah, I love seeing Michael Taff get some love just because I know our guy, Ty, is friends with his brother and all that. So every time I see Michael Taff make a play on the field, I text Ty right away. Just Michael bleeping Taff. I love seeing him get some love.
It's nice to see him because early in the year, too, he was put in some situations where he was kind of getting picked at.
Yeah.
And picked on. And so there was a lot of people that were really unhappy he was ever on the field because the athleticism is lacking with Michael Taff, but he has a really good football IQ, which I know is white guy talk.
He's really smart.
He's a gym rat, guys. I know.
He studies a lot of film.
But he's shown he can make huge plays. He is Johnny on the spot on a lot of those tip balls.
Oh, he's an opportunist back there.
So it's good to see him step up and play and get in that honorable mention. And for a guy that walked on because he wanted to play at Texas.
Yeah.
And I know on Ball Don't Lie, we were big proponents of getting him a scholarship. He got the scholarship. He also helped recruit Arch Manning, which was the main reason that everyone was like, just give the man a scholarship. He helped recruit Arch Manning.
Right.
But it's good to see him get on there. Anything else you saw noticeable on there?
Nothing else. I mean, the rest of it just kind of feels like they were due. Like you kind of knew they were going to get these awards. Outside of, like you mentioned, with Quinn and Jonathan Brooks, the injuries kind of setting them back a little bit. I'm happy, like you said, that they actually did give the Longhorns some love, even though they're leaving the conference, because some of these guys will never play in the SEC.
Yeah,
right?
Like Devondre Sweat is probably never going to play. We
Right.
figure Byron Murphy won't. There's a possibility he could come back. He is a junior.
Right, so don't
But-
punish them.
But yeah, don't. And just like you punished Jalen Ford last year, and I get it. It's the players had no say in this decision.
None.
They wanted to come play. Then I get you hate Texas and all of that. But I was happy to see that some of those guys were able to get on there. We are going to get to see. We'll get into Texas versus Oklahoma State. We'll get to see the guys who maybe were not on the list where they thought they should be. And one of those guys is got to be Quinn Ewers, who I know is more zen now, or more, I don't know what all the words they're using to describe his new attitude of being, chill, but in the moment.
Oh, he's not John Wick anymore?
They're still John Wick.
Oh, okay.
The whole team as a whole is John Wick.
Oh, okay. I thought Quinn was John Wick. Okay.
Which we need to get Devondre Sweat in the John Wick universe.
Oh, man.
Did that big dude came out? Keanu Reeves just turned right back around.
We found the one person John Wick is scared of.
We get all them. We also got to get Devondre Sweat to meet Kevin Durant. Apparently,
I heard that.
Rodney Terry is on it. We had said this earlier in the year, and I thought, like, at some of the points when Kevin Durant was in this, at Texas,
Yeah.
because he's been coming back over and over again to work out in the gym, and you're like, well, why don't you just go be like, hey, go get Devondre.
Dude, he's nervous.
Go get him and bring him on over.
He's nervous.
So they said they're going to make it happen, and I think Kevin Durant will make it happen and get over there. It'll be fun. I did like did you see the thing where they were talking about Rodney Terry showing the play against, and I think it was Iowa State. I can't remember
The
which
Jay
game.
Witt play?
The Jay Witt.
Yeah.
Well, but it's Jay Witt and Xavier Worthy.
Right.
Because I know, and everybody's a bigger fan of Jay Witt than Xavier Worthy, because Xavier Worthy is a little bit more standoffish. No, but if you watch the play, Xavier Worthy is the guy who jumps on the ball.
Right.
And Xavier Worthy's behind the play too.
Right.
So both those guys get back on, because if he gets the fumble and they don't recover it, then it's still an interception.
Yeah.
And it's still the other team's ball. But it was really cool to see Rodney Terry show that at the hustle and what that can mean.
That's so big, too, for your team.
Yeah. And be like, do you want to be that guy? And, Brock Cunningham sitting in the back of the room was like, I am that guy.
He's like, I've done it. I've been doing it for about 6 years.
But we'll say one of the guys who you think can see that list, see that Will Howard is ahead of him in the list, see that, he's not getting the recognition that he may be wanting to get, and knows that he's got at least 2 more games to try and showcase his abilities, if he wants to showcase his abilities, to see if he can move up a little bit in draft boards.
I don't think so. I think he's set.
Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, I think he's pretty set to come back.
But that's the thing is, if Texas, for we can go down the college ball playoff and the ways that Texas can get into it, but if they get in the college ball playoff and they win a national championship, which is a huge if,
Yeah,
I don't think he's coming back.
you're right. That might be the one scenario that sends him off into the sunset.
I think there's scenarios where he has 2 really good games. He has this, and he plays 3 really good games, and you get to where he may go, okay, now my draft stock's back up in the first round. I feel confident. I know there's teams now that are telling me they'll draft me.
I just don't buy it. I think a championship is the only thing that doesn't allow him to come back,
I
because
don't know.
then you have nothing to come back for.
I think there's multiple options. I know in the moment, I just know with enough athletes I've talked to over the years and everything, in the moment versus a week away, 2 weeks away, a month away from it is a very different mindset.
Sure.
And when
that money's real all of a sudden.
Well, and not even the money's real, but when you're like, I have to go take on the abuse again to be a college football player and go and do this, and I'm going to the SEC, and there's no guarantees that I don't get hurt week 2, and then my NFL stock is going to, it's not necessarily I'm going to move up, and I know you're confident you can, but I don't know if that's the case. I'm not trying to get him to leave by any stretch of the imagination.
Get out. We want Arch.
But I think that there's a real discussion of he's going to have to step away from the game for a minute, relax, heal back up, feel good, and then start to have those conversations with teams again. And we know, like, the scouting, the NFL teams, until the NFL season's over, you have scouting departments that are working, but the coaches and general managers may not be fully invested into the scouting process until you get to that point, and you can say, well, okay, now I think I'm going to make my decision to go to that next level. Now, he'll have to make that decision a little bit earlier because he would probably want to play in the Senior Bowl, or he'd want to play in one of the final bowls now that juniors can play in those.
Yeah.
So he may want to get to that point. But I think that I don't think it's written in stone yet that he's coming back. And if he is, great. And I'd love to see it because it makes our next year team that bridge where you're losing, probably Xavier Worthy and JT Sanders and Jordan Whittington and Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah.
It would make that bridge a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to have him back. However, I don't think it's written in stone at all that he is necessarily going to come back. But we'll put up that this is why I want to play a sound from Sark talking on Monday, because we know one of the teams that has given Quinn Ewers a lot of problems, and last year he was a little beat up. We know this is a game last year where Xavier Worthy was beat up. And Xavier Worthy apparently had a broken hand in this game. And it was windy. And Quinn Ewers was beat up. And Sark decided that all he wanted to do was throw the ball to Quinn Ewers the entire game, and that's what he was going to do. And that Texas-Oklahoma State game last year, Quinn did not look like the quarterback that you want him to look like on Saturday. Sark was asked about Quinn's growth since last season at Oklahoma State, and where does he see Quinn at now as a player, as a person, and versus Oklahoma State?
Well, that's part of the games like that are part of the growing pains of playing the position. When you get on the road and you get in a hostile environment, and early on things are going your way, and then things start not going your way for a variety of reasons. In that game, we had a couple opportunities for some big plays, and we didn't pass protect very well for him. Then we had a couple opportunities for some big plays. We didn't catch the ball very well for him. And then all of a sudden he misses a couple throws, and those types of things can snowball on you. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and I think Quinn has learned, and that I've learned about him, is his demeanor when things at times this year haven't gone great. For example, the interception Friday night when he was trying to hit the fade to A.D. Mitchell, I thought his poise, his composure really showed through, and he was able to come right back and still execute at a high level. A year ago, it might have been more of a challenge to rebound from that type of a play, but I think that he's learning how to respond to those things, to learn from them, and then put them to the side, and then focus on the next task, the next play, and what's asked of him. So I think there's a mental maturity side from him that you're just seeing a lot of growth, a lot of maturity.
And I think that is something that we can look at Quinn Ewers and say the maturity level is much higher. We've seen him make a mistake and come back and play good football, which he didn't seem to do as much last season. We've seen him be able to show that he can now attack a 3-high, 3-down. He's done that a little bit better this season. Sark is part of that too. The play calling is part of it too, but him making his reads. I don't know if he's going to be that mobile in this game. We'll see how much he's healed up. He definitely looked a lot better throwing the ball against Texas Tech than he did in the previous weeks coming back from injury. So maybe he'll be a little bit more mobile in this game, which helps out when you're playing those 3-high, 3-down. If because we saw points he was taking sacks in the last 2-3 weeks where he's taking a sack basically because he realizes, all right, this is where I should take off, but I don't want to run.
Yeah.
And now I'm just done because now I'm kind of panicking because I don't know what to do. And, even if he can't get to that, there's part where you want him to get outside.
Right.
And just throw the ball away. Just go, man, I get it. There's nothing there. There's no problem in throwing the ball away, but you need to get outside the pocket right now because you can't throw it away if you stay in the pocket.
Yeah.
So at least run to the outside, and if someone's getting even near you, just chunk the ball out of bounds, and you'll be fine. So I think that's probably something that they're working on with him to get him to either keep running, and I don't think they want to work on that too much because they want him to run.
Right.
You'd prefer him to be a mobile quarterback like he was earlier in the season and really punish these teams that don't let you have that space in the middle. If Sark's not going to call for short yardage passes, to at least have a quarterback that can get out there and get those few extra yards is huge. But do you think this is a Quinn Ewers that can have a much better game? Plus, you're not playing at Oklahoma State. You're playing indoors in Arlington, so the weather is not a factor this year, which is good to say. Is this something that you think Quinn can kind of redeem himself a bit against this Oklahoma State team?
First off, I will say I was at that game last year in Stillwater. It was very windy in that stadium, but it doesn't discount the fact that there were a lot of times where he was either force feeding the long ball, like you mentioned, to a broken hand Xavier Worthy with Jay Witt running wide open underneath, and then they just abandoned the run. I do think he can make that step, especially because, like you said, indoors, controlled environment. This is going to be 7-on-7 football for Quinn, and I think he's going to light him up. I really do. I have zero fear.
I do, and I think the indoors is going to be good for just the health of the elbow or the health of the shoulder. I think just not, kind of having controlled factors in it is going to help him out some, just to not have to worry about it being cold and sore or hot and sore.
You don't have to try and rip a fastball right into a headwind.
Yeah, I think that is going to help him out in this game. But it is interesting. With Sark, he can't talk, too much strategy. He's not going to do that in the presser, but he can mention that this is a guy that even if he does make a mistake, that has changed a lot from, one mistake turns into 4 missed passes, and then those 4 missed passes turns into 2 interceptions.
No doubt.
And it just kind of keeps going downhill, and you see him on the sideline with his head down.
Yeah.
And we saw in the bowl game last year in Washington, that was the first time we really saw him try to step up when Bijan and Roschon were gone. Not on the they were on the sideline, but they were not playing. That he had to step up and try and get his team going, and that was kind of the birth of Quinn Ewers as what we see him this year. I think this year is a very different Quinn Ewers. And so playing-wise, if he doesn't have the arm strength still, he looked better last week against Tech, but, everything looked good against Tech.
Right.
So
there wasn't anything that wasn't working against Tech. That was awesome.
So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to pull off, but I think he's going to have a little bit of bulletin board material, being that he is an honorable mention as somebody who is a Heisman favorite to go into the season, and at the end of the season can say, well, you guys think Will Howard's better. And I get Dillon Gabriel. He beat you. And so there's part of it. I think he's competitive with Dillon Gabriel as well. If you look at the other Dillon Gabriel games, that he's not had all stellar games.
Right.
So I think he's comparative to that. He could have been all Big 12 first team as well. And without the injury, he much more likely would have been.
Yeah, he would have had the numbers to go along with.
But I think he can, in his head, say, screw the numbers. I test. You guys don't like me. And I'm going to go out there and prove to you that I'm the best guy. And I'm going to take the coach of the year, my boy Sark. I'm going to show you that he's better too. I think there's part of that. And it was funny because we know the Iowa State lineman said what he said. And Sark had we don't really have bulletin board material. And then every single player has talked about the bulletin board material for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Brett Yormark and whatever they're saying. And so come on, Mike Gundy, say something stupid.
Please.
Say something stupid.
Please. You're known for your sound bites. Give me one. Give me one.
Give me one. All right, let's get Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
All right, couple questions for you. First one is easy. First one, we'll ask you about the Big 12 championship game or the Big 12 awards. Did anybody get snubbed in the Big 12 awards? Do you feel that there should have been something going a different way? And it could even be a different player from a different team. If you're watching another team and you think that another player was snubbed, or, the order was wrong, or they got something wrong on that, send that in. If you do think that, or just send it and go, no, nailed it, guys. We want to hear from you on that. And then I also want to ask you, how many points does Texas need to win by on Saturday? In your head, when you look at Texas still being number 7, they're behind Ohio State, and Ohio State's off. We've seen Ohio State jump TCU when TCU was off a few years ago. Ohio State was able to jump TCU to get back into the college football playoff when TCU was off. The precedent has been set. Ohio State was part of it.
Right. So
Texas can jump Ohio State because they will have another win. They will have the performance, and all of a sudden they may be able to get back into that picture. And we know Oregon, we'll see on Friday night. Oregon and Washington play Friday night. One of those teams has to lose. So one of them is probably getting knocked out.
Yep.
Because it's either a 2-loss Oregon or it's a 1-loss Washington with not a great resume.
Right.
Who will probably get knocked down. And the fact that the bookies are putting, we'll talk about it in the next segment, but they're giving them a big old spread.
They like Oregon a lot.
They don't. A lot of people don't like Washington. So I think they could slide down. We know Alabama's going to be out of the equation if they lose to Georgia. That's another one that you push out that gets out of the way. And you're still watching that Florida State-Louisville game. And what could happen there? But Texas has a path, but they need to win big because you got to jump Ohio State, and there's a lot of Ohio State fans in that room. Mm-hmm. And they'll sit there and go, I know they were down here, and I know Texas is a better team, but they almost lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, guys.
Come on. But I want to. So that's the questions for you guys. How many points does Texas need to win by on Saturday? And was there any snubs in the Big 12 awards that came out? I did see one text already. We did mention Bert Auburn. We did. He is.
He got his one mention.
He was on the. He's all first team. He is all first team.
Yes.
So we have Bert Auburn on there as well, and he may have had a different award that I don't see listed on the thing I printed off. So I don't know if there's more of the awards that were not on my.
The longest pregame field goal hit in the Big 12.
Like the ESPY Awards, like the most emotional moment with the least tears on a Friday award goes to this person you've never heard of in a sport that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And all sports matter, guys. All sports matter.
Every single one of them. Even water polo. I know y'all like to discount it, but
No. I'm bitter against sports that people want me to talk about at points, and I'm like, can't give you any updates on that. I have no idea what's happening. I will say, UT women won again this morning.
good job.
They won again against Oral Roberts. I did not realize that was the. I saw the post of it was the annual field trip game. It's a really cool idea. It's a cool idea. They do the annual field trip game, and they basically bus in kids from all these schools to come to the game, and they play an 11 a.m. game. And it's a cool way that these kids get to see a game that some of these kids would never get to see.
Yeah.
They get to see the Moody Center now, and the girls get a really big, loud audience, which it is a loud audience, not always cheering at the right things, but a loud audience.
Yeah, and sometimes that pitch gets up there.
It gets up there. It's, as someone who's worked the game, it is bring ear protection. It was the only game. Normally, you had to turn the volume up in the headset for me and Craig. You had to keep turning it up because you're trying to hear what Craig's saying, and you're fighting off the crowd noise.
Yeah.
And that one is the crowd noise gets so into your headset that you're turning it down. You're like, I don't need to hear anything. We're just gonna go and hope it sounds all right.
We're gonna go on hand signals today. Hand signals.
But yeah, it was a good. But that is they're dominating right now. Of course they are. But a very cool event that I'm, as someone with no kids, just fine not having to work anymore.
Yeah.
Just fine not having to work it. But it's a very cool event. It's a cool idea to bring those kids in and do an early game and showcase. And hopefully, and I've talked to parents of kids who go to that game. They're like, they loved it. And then now they want to go to another game and they want to do.
Yeah, you're going to inspire kids.
So it's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Text line's open, 512-447-3776. When we come back, we'll start opening up the text line. We will get into some college football talk. We'll keep it rolling here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back in the sports complex here in the Horn, playing Jimi Hendrix all week because Jimmy's birthday would have been on Monday. So why not play Jimi Hendrix all week long? Some good stuff.
Yeah.
It's just some calm Jimmy, some nice relaxing Jimmy.
It's timeless music.
Timeless music. That's what happens when, the person just took a ton of drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
You get stuff that no one else could ever create in a sane mind.
Good stuff there. Text line's open, guys. 512-447-3776. We're asking how many points does Texas need to win by on Saturday? We know the college football playoffs are rolling right now, and everybody's getting their opinions in, and Texas still at number 7. You can jump Ohio State. It's possible, but you're going to have to win. They are a 15.5-point favorite now, so you have to at least cover.
Yeah, you absolutely have to cover.
But is it 3 scores? Is it 3? Is it 21? Are we saying it's a 20-point win gets you the style points you need, or do you have to even get bigger than that? That is the question for Texas going into this, and that's for the question on the poll, 512-447-3776. And did any of Texas players get snubbed in the poll in the college, the Big 12? There's the words.
There it is.
The Big 12 football awards that were announced today. In the 6 o'clock, I'll tell you, we'll go through those names again if you didn't hear them. But if did anybody get snubbed? We know Sark is the main one I think people are going to mention. That people feel that Sark should have been named over Gundy. But there could be another one. If you got somebody else who got snubbed and you feel they should be on there, Quinn, I think, has an argument. I think Jonathan Brooks has an argument. I think those guys have arguments that they should have been in there, but that's too. I'm asking you guys on the text line, 512-447-3776. We're also going to go over I want to go over some games with you, Jacob.
Okay.
Before we get to the text line, that there is some conference championship games that have massive implications and could go one way. And Texas fans will be dancing in the streets on Saturday nights. Everyone will be happy. And it could go another way. And Texas fans will just have very anticlimactic January ball game.
Oh, man. That took all the steam out of it.
Could be. Could be just a big January bowl game. Not a bad season. Everything could be good. You still be a 13-win team.
Right.
Which is 13 wins, very good. You still got to beat Oklahoma State. We're counting on beating Oklahoma State when we're saying these scenarios. We're counting on that because if you don't, then the whole conversation's null and void, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need that win.
So let's start off with the Pac-12 because they're going to be playing Friday night.
Okay.
This is a big game. It's number 3 versus number 5. It is an undefeated Washington versus a one-loss Oregon that everybody really likes. The still number one ranked one-loss team in the country. Oregon, since they lost to Washington, has come out and tried to basically have only statement wins. Now, we can say they did play a Texas Tech team early in the season, and they won by 8.
Really?
They won by 8. Texas won by 50. They won by 8. I don't know which one's higher. Not a math whiz here.
Can you compare those two? Is that a...
But people love Oregon. Oregon is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. This game comes down to, for me, the fact that it seems like Oregon at least has a defense, and I don't know if Washington does.
Okay.
What do you look at in this game, Jacob?
Well, I look at the same thing the College Football Playoff Committee looks at, which is Bo Nix's 78% completion percentage.
Yep.
That's apparently a huge differentiator these days. But also, this Washington team did look vulnerable last week against Washington State. But I think what we all learned last week is rivalry week should be judged just a little bit differently. And the Longhorns rivalry week just happens to be in the middle of the season. It
should. You're right. It should be judged differently. And the last game of the season is what we should base all of our opinions on, 57-7.
There you go. That's Texas's rivalry week. Yeah,
of
just
course.
Tech this year.
I don't want to give Tech that. You're right. It's Oklahoma.
No, the Huskies haven't put any opponent away since Cal in week 4. Their average margin of victory outside of a 17-point win over Utah is 7. 7 points. And their highest was 10 against USC since week 4.
Yeah.
So for that reason alone, I'll give it to Oregon. I'll take the Ducks to cover the 9.5 this time.
Yeah, and I think also if you look at Oregon is 25th in the country right now on third down conversions against. They are stopping teams right now on third down. They're getting off the field. And that's going to be a problem for this Washington team that Oregon can stop the run pretty well. It's going to be relying on Michael Penix. Now, he could come out and have a great game and win this. This one doesn't apply to Texas too much it does because whoever wins is probably in,
Right.
and whoever loses is probably out.
Yeah, this one's pretty simple.
So this one
yeah.
doesn't really affect Texas too much, but I have Oregon covering too. I like what Washington's done, but I feel like they've been just dancing on the edge a little bit too much all season long, and Oregon has been putting their foot to the gas. It could go either way, but I'll think Oregon walks away with this one pretty handily. All right, this game does matter for Texas.
Just a little bit.
Number 1, Georgia, and number 8, Alabama. Georgia is a 6-point favorite. They're going for their 30th consecutive win in this game.
That's so many.
30th consecutive win. What do you got on this game, Jacob?
The Alabama brand carries such a heavy weight in college football, and well-deserved. Saban and the boys have earned that from their continued dominance. But this is the back-to-back defending champion in Georgia. Like you just said, they're going for their 30th win in a row, and they continue each week to prove why they're the best team in college football right now. It's basically a home game for the Bulldogs playing in Atlanta. I'll take Georgia to cover the 6 against Alabama in this one.
Yeah, I think Georgia is just playing really well. They continue to play really well. They're the better offensive team than Alabama, and they might be the better defensive team too.
Yeah.
And I think that Alabama has a shot to compete in this game. We know that it required a 4th and 31 conversion to win the game against Auburn.
How do you let that happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
How do you
you freeze up?
how do you give up the corner of the end zone on 4th and 31? Anyway.
But I'll tell you, if they want to stand a chance, Jalen Milroe has to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe is going to have 70, 80 yards in rushing in this game to open up a passing game for them, to get it to where you really have to overcommit to stopping Jalen Milroe running the football, because they're going to come up the front and come up the middle. Georgia does a lot. They stack the box and really come after you, which is going to slow down the run game. But if Milroe can get out to the outside
squeeze
out and still look downfield, and Alabama offensive line can kind of block inside and get people to go inside and let them in,
right.
I think Milroe could have a big game on the ground. You're going to need that if you're Alabama to be able to compete in this game. But Georgia, I know we keep hearing conversations about what happens if Alabama wins. So I think it's a better radio conversation. What happens?
Good narrative. Yeah.
It's a good narrative. I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I've told my Alabama friends, and I told them, I go, look, if Alabama beats Georgia, you'll probably jump us because you beat the number 1 team in the country after 30 straight wins on a neutral field. You have it's a great win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, they'll probably put them both in if Alabama wins that game.
Yeah, I think they would too, now it also depends on if Florida State wins or loses, because if Florida State wins,
right, yeah,
then you can't put them both in.
Right, yeah.
We'll get to that game last. Let's hit these two real quick. This next one's pretty quick. Number 2, Michigan is a 21.5-point favorite at number 16, Iowa. Blake Corum had 133 yards in their last meeting. I think Michigan's just going to be able to bully ball them, because this is a team in Iowa who wants to play bully ball, and they're just little brother bully ball.
Right.
I just don't see any way they compete in this game.
So you're going to take Michigan to cover?
Yeah, I am. 21.5.
That's a large number. Now, listen, Michigan is clearly going to win this game against the ferocious Big Ten opponent in the Iowa Hawkeyes. But both of these teams can get into a run and beat you up style like you were just talking about. I'm worried there's not going to be enough time in the game for Michigan to pull away by 22 points with both of them keeping the ball on the ground.
That's true.
So for that reation, I'll take Iowa plus 21.5 in this one.
And that's good. I can tell you this, that as far as Iowa goes, they're averaging 18 points per game. Michigan is allowing 10.5 points a game for their opponents. I do not expect to see a lot of points from Iowa in this game.
No.
So the score could be 24-3.
Right.
And they'd be really close to covering that 21.5.
Right.
So it does not take a lot for Michigan to score, because I do not see Iowa scoring a touchdown in this game. And they may, but I don't see them scoring a touchdown in this game.
No, but I see them just eating away at the clock.
I do too. I think they'll eat away at the clock. But again, it could be. It's a good point that you bring up. One more game before we go to break and get to your text messages. Number 14 Louisville at number 4 Florida State. Florida State is a 2.5-point favorite. This is somewhat betting lines, I think, too. That people are a little bit more worried about a team with, once Jordan Travis went down, Florida State's looked okay, but they played South Alabama and Florida, and this Florida team was no good all season long. Louisville loses 38-31 to Kentucky in a game where they just turned the ball over. Louisville has 2 losses. Both losses, they have 3 turnovers in.
Ooh. I didn't realize that stat.
Hold on to the ball against Florida State. Louisville's got a real shot to win this game. I'm a homer. I'm going Louisville.
Okay, well, I think Florida State is still the more talented team.
They are.
I think across the board they are. So I think without a mistake, like a critical mistake from Florida State, I don't think Louisville's going to win this game. I think Florida State can hold them at bay. I have been known as the kiss of death this year, though. So here you go, Longhorns fans. I'll take Florida State minus 2.5 in this one. Good luck.
Yeah, all right. I got Louisville. Let's go. Louisville. We got to take a break. We come back. We'll start hitting up the text line 512-447-3776. How many points does Texas need to win by on Saturday? And was anybody snubbed in those Big 12 awards? Let us know on the text line 512-447-3776. We'll get to it when we get back here on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn, playing Jimi Hendrix all week long. So it would have been his birthday on Monday, and that's any good excuse to play some Jimi Hendrix is a good excuse. Text line's open, 512-447-3776, asking you guys how many points does Texas need to win by on Saturday to get those style points and get the College Football Playoff Committee saying you can't leave them out. You can't leave them out.
Make yourself undeniable.
Make yourself undeniable. What's that number? What's the point win margin that we need to have? And then was anybody snubbed in the Big 12 awards that were announced today? We'll go over those again next hour. I'll read through them again just so you guys can, we'll get through anybody who may have been on there. Text line's open. This texter says Sarkisian should have gotten the Big 12 Coach of the Year. I think that's and he also says BS, the coach from Oklahoma State, was the Big 12 Coach of the Year when Sarkisian is the one that went 12-1 and 11-1 and got Texas to a Big 12 championship. Also says watching the final, the Paul Feinbaum show, he's rooting for Texas to get into the college football playoff. He says they're being screwed, and also says if Alabama beat Georgia and they chose Alabama to go to the college football playoff, that Texas should as well. Look.
Okay, he also said if the SEC gets left out of the playoff entirely, he's going to go out and boycott the college football playoffs.
He's also employed by the SEC.
There you go.
He's employed by the SEC, by ESPN and the SEC Network. He's employed by the SEC. My favorite thing with Paul Feinbaum this year was when he was on the side of Jim Harbaugh. I was like, let's just let's see what's happening. Let's get a report and then we'll know. And then clearly they called him. We're like, dude, he's going to be in the playoffs and not you, and not SEC. And he was like, they should kick the entire Big Ten. You know what? Only SEC should be allowed to play. It was just funny. But Paul Feinbaum, he knows what he's doing. It's just the last 3 or 4 weeks have been pretty rough to listen to anything he says because he is very much on the pulpit for the SEC. And maybe if he dialed it back a little bit, it would mean more.
But then he wouldn't be Paul Feinbaum.
I know. But that's how you get paid the big bucks. That's why we're not getting paid the big bucks, Jacob.
That's because we shoot it straight around here.
It's great. And I'm with you. I think Sark, I think that, I get they're saying Gundy did more with less. You're taking off the non-conference games.
Yeah.
But I still say it's Sark with what that team did.
I'm not upset with it.
No, and with the quarterback injury during the year, with a Doak Walker Award finalist that gets hurt in the middle of the year, and to continue to win and continue to get better, I have it, but I'm not going to get. I don't think Sark's going to get butthurt about it either.
No.
This texter says on Saturday, I'm afraid of the refs. I'm not as afraid of the refs in this game. I know there's going to be some calls, but I don't think it's going to be blatantly obvious when you're the only game on TV.
I don't think it's going to matter.
I don't think it's going to matter either. Also, didn't hear you mention Auburn. Yes, Auburn was first team all Big 12.
Yes.
We also get a texter, sends some Gundy mullet pics, and makes a joke about beating Oral Roberts that I can't say on the radio. So we'll skip on that one. I appreciate you listening.
You don't want to give it a shot? Try and dance around it?
Well, nope. We get it. You know what? Not gonna disparage the very classy women's basketball team at our school.
Okay.
There's some big women and proud women that work very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Seen them practice.
Yep.
I don't want to make them mad.
No, you don't want to do
make
that.
them mad.
No.
The hypocrisy is getting infuriating. In one breath, they will say you can't diminish what FSU has done. In the very next breath, they'll try to discredit Texas. They said a head-to-head means everything when it's Alabama and Georgia. In the very next breath, he says Texas win over Bama means nothing. Point blank, Texas needs a flat-out bludgeon. OK State, leave zero doubt. It's going to be a beatdown of biblical proportions. There is some hypocrisy. I agree, Scarlett. I think it also is, depending on who you listen to and how much you listen to them, that, the algorithm on Twitter and Facebook and all those other things, the algorithm is to show you the things that will make you hate the world the most.
Yes.
So there is also positive things. And I've seen a lot of people that are very much on the Texas should be in this, Texas should be ahead of all these people bandwagon. I know Rich Eisen was on his show saying they should be ahead of Ohio State. I get Florida State is undefeated. I'm okay with undefeated ahead of one-loss teams. They did schedule LSU non-conference. They had not scheduled LSU non-conference, then I'd be more upset. But they scheduled a game that was supposed to be a very big game early in the season. We didn't know LSU was not going to be what LSU turned out to be. You don't know that. They did schedule it, so I'll give them some credit.
Right.
The ACC just is not very good. But we'll see if Louisville can pull off a big win. FSU is not the one I'm necessarily as mad about. I think Oregon, Texas should be ahead of Oregon. I think Texas should definitely be ahead of Ohio State. I think they're the best one-loss team in the country.
I think so, and I think that's without a doubt. But Aaron brought up a good point this morning, Aaron Hogan. He said there is a regionality to this. It's part of their guidelines. So that's why they cherish Oregon and Washington and all that, because they have to have that West Coast presence.
Yeah, no, I get that. But that's fine. One of those is in and one of those is out.
Right.
We get that.
Yeah.
And I get if Oregon beats Washington, then that's a really good win as well, and it gives you that boost. And especially if they go in and do what they've been doing and win by 35, 40, then they'll have that as well. This texter says, Coach Sark got hosed, hands down coach of the year, and UT 42, OSU 13 would be a nice margin. So a 29-point win.
I like that.
29, that's once we're getting into that 30 is a massive beatdown in a championship game.
I'll say anything over 24. 24 and above, I think that's a big enough statement.
Yeah, I'd say in a championship game, I think really, and it's going to be the thing we talk about is can they play 4 quarters?
Yeah.
Is this a Texas team that can go up against Oklahoma State and play 4 quarters and get ahead early and then stay ahead? Because Oklahoma State's shown
they're going to play all 4 quarters.
Well, and they've shown that you can get ahead of them.
Yeah.
And they'll still win the game.
Right.
So if Texas can come out and, foot on the throat like they did against Texas Tech, that's really the story you want to see. And I think that's the thing that, if they do that 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row now, where they continue to play in the second half, I think it does take away some of those doubts of people that said, well, TCU came back and K-State came back and Houston came back and all these schools, and they don't play 4 quarters and a good team would go get them. No, now they are.
Right.
So they fixed that problem, and I think it could help out in that regard as well. Let's do one more text before we get over a break. 2 TDs over the cover, in my opinion, to make a statement. So that would be a 28-point win.
That's massive.
That's massive. So you're saying, so Jacob is in the 25 range. Most people are now in the 30 range.
Yes.
So we're saying 30 is the range. So 25 to 30 is the range where you guys are going. We'll get to more text. I see more on there. Text line's still open. We're going to get back to it. 512-447-3776. We got to take a break at the top of the hour. We'll come back, get to more of your texts. We will also get into some NFL talk as well. Some big games happening, including one tomorrow night. That'll be a big game with the Dallas Cowboys in action.
What's going on?
They're in action tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
They're Thursdays. They're the new America's Thursday team.
That's
Dallas Cowboys.
The rest of the way.
Here we go. The Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 of the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Myself, Patrick Davis, joined by Jacob Standard on a Wednesday afternoon on the show. Still coming up, we will talk some more college football playoffs, of course, your text messages, getting some NFL talk, and a little NBA talk as well, all coming up here on the show. But you guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. So go ahead and send in what you guys want to talk about, what's your questions, comments, concerns, all of those things. Hit us up on the text line 512-447-3776. We do try to read every single one. I promise. Even sometimes you say inappropriate things and I can't read them. That's we try and read everybody's text here on the show. All right, let's get back to the text line before we get to some NFL talk. This texter says, it's over, boys. They could win by 100 and won't get in. Text back in. Does that mean Florida State's going to win? And so it doesn't matter. It's all arbitrary because Florida State wins, which means there's no path to get in anymore because there's still going to be 4 undefeateds.
Right.
Is that the reason why? Or do you think they cannot jump Ohio State and they are just Ohio State's automatically in and they can't jump them to get in?
Oh, wouldn't that sting if they slide?
Oh,
Ohio
no, it would
State
be the biggest miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
And they should blow it up and do more teams next year if that's the case.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Somebody should get on that.
Yeah, no, that would be crazy to do that. I also think money wise and again regionally wise and everything else you can talk about in TV networks. They go, no one wants to see Michigan Ohio State again. I know you keep saying it's the game. Nobody wants to watch it again.
No.
Ohio State fans do because but Michigan's fans don't even want it again.
No.
Nobody wants another one of the matchups. They want to see other great matchups in the college football playoffs. We don't want to see that game again. So I don't know if it's over. If you want to believe that it's over, then that means that you believe Florida State wins, all the favorites win, everybody stays undefeated, and Texas cannot jump into that realm. Then I'm fine. I can go with you on that. That it's going to take help. Texas cannot get in by themselves.
No, you need a win and help.
But we're basing on the scenario that there is a scenario where Texas is going to be able to get in. We need to put on that Rod Babers Old Testament style butt whooping on OK State. I agree with that one. Lorenzo says if they can beat OSU 49-12 or better to that score, I will believe it will give the best chance to get in the playoffs. We have now jumped into the 45-point range, Jacob.
Oh my goodness, I would love that, but I don't know if we're getting up there.
I don't think we're going to get into there. Sorry, that is 35. I'm sorry, I can't do math. I told you I'm not a math whiz. 35-point range.
No, okay.
Still a lot. I just can't wait till next year when college football becomes a legitimate sport and not a beauty pageant. As for this year, I believe you're all forgetting about a little thing called the swimsuit competition.
Ah, yes, the swimsuit competition.
You want to tell me we have the shirtless quarterback picture?
We do.
Who else has that out there?
Oh, are you kidding me?
That's our swimsuit competition already in there.
Yeah, and Sark speaks in riddles, so we have the answer questions portion. We're good.
WPI Parts Guy says 3 scores, and you think Jonathan Brooks and Sark have also been shorted as one of our poll questions. Also, haven't wanted to get violent ill. I heard that the committee clown skip around the Oregon-Texas question.
Yeah, so Reese Davis went right at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because everybody knows, and that's the thing is they you kind of make up that, but this is a good season because there's undefeated and there's these one-loss teams that you can say, no, you say that head-to-head matches and you say that similar schedules and you can say all this stuff matters and then you vote different against that.
Yep.
So none of it matters. It's eye test. It's all eye test for you, and you want to see teams win by 50. And so you're telling me it would be better if none of us scheduled big non-conference opponents.
Yeah.
So you're saying for the college football playoffs, as it is, it would be a better sport to you if all of us played Division V schools.
If Alabama beat up on Chattanooga every week,
and then get in, and we're all undefeated, and then you just go, well, they won by 90 every week.
Yeah.
So it is. I think that in my head, at least, I have that the networks are going to come in a little bit more in the last one, may make a few phone calls and be like, hey guys, you work for us. Remember, this is all paid for by us. So give us what we want and not what you want. We did a focus group and they said, you suck.
You have been removed of your position here.
You just kept hearing him say the game. And you were like, they must be the best 2 teams. And they're not. They're not. Kyle McCord's not the best. He's just not a great quarterback.
No.
They're not the same team as last year.
No, they're
because
definitely not.
The guy who's dominating in the NFL right now is no longer on that team.
Who's that?
The Houston Texans starting quarterback, CJ Stroud.
Oh, was he there last year?
Was he there? He was there.
Oh,
Daydrinker77 says, I think we should at least win by 20 to do our part. I think a little bit more than 20 because it is a 14.5 point cover or 15.5 point cover. I think you need to win by a little bit more than that to really stick at home. But I do think that 25 to 30 point range is where you start to get into, all right, how much better do we have to be in a conference championship game?
right.
Against a, I get they're a 3-loss opponent and they've lost to, teams they should not have lost to. But they've played good against good opponents. So,
Yeah, when have you proved your point?
yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Rodney from Rosebud Lot says, 30 plus to get any attention. And don't forget, TCU got in last year after losing the championship game. They sure did. There's also a different spin this year because there hasn't been 4 undefeated teams going this far into the season ever.
Right.
So that's
the tricky
really
part.
what's throwing everything off is normally 1-loss teams. There's a lot more discussion. And right now, as it stands, everybody's undefeated going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
If everybody wins out, you're fine. And the debate goes away. So after we win Saturday, I feel we'll be able still be on the outside looking in. I think even if Georgia loses, them and then Alabama would both be in. Again, the Alabama-Georgia thing, Florida State has to lose in that argument. Where everything relies on the Louisville coming through. So many people are rooting for Louisville in this game. It is remarkable. Those guys should be selling shirts and just be like, hey, you want to really root for us? Come on. Buy our stuff right now. And they'll be like, no, thank you. This texter says 1 point. 1 point is all you need to the win. I don't know if 1 point is going to get us over Ohio State. I think that may, because that would mean we would not cover by 14 points.
I appreciate your pessimism, though.
I appreciate
Let's
it.
just win.
Let's
just 1 point. Let's just win.
Blind Longer fan says at least 21. Jahdae Barron was snubbed for all team. He was all team second team.
Yes.
Jahdae Barron was. So he was still on the team. I could have seen him in one, I think, because of the passing struggles. Because Jahdae Barron got pulled out of the game a lot early in the season. And I don't know why. So I agree with you. Jahdae Barron should have been on there because PK and Sark should have realized he should be on the field at all the time. And I think if he was, he'd probably be on that list. And Drake Stoops over A.D. Mitchell. Come on. I know. A.D. Mitchell, too. I would have had him on that first team as well. I think that was not putting 2 Longhorns on the first team.
That was a political play.
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah. But I'm with you, Blind Longhorn fan. I'm with you. And Phil Knight must be looking at the college football committee with premier Nike gear to help Oregon ahead of Texas. Is that it? They're getting the Nike gear?
I think so.
I think if anybody walks in with any Nike shoes on, votes out.
If you were to go take a snapshot in there and they're all in like Nike quarter zips.
But if they're wearing the Durants, you're in. The Durants, you're in.
Yeah.
Should we not be rooting for Alabama? 1-loss conference champion Texas should get in over a 1-loss non-conference Georgia. Also, we beat Bama. They didn't. No, because that opens up way too many doors.
You don't want Alabama to beat Georgia.
And again, the amount of people rooting for each conference, Big 12 and Texas right now, even though they should be getting SEC help, is not.
Right.
And so they're not getting SEC help. The Big 12 doesn't like them. Nobody really likes Texas in that room. So you really need Georgia to just win and keep that point. I don't think there's any chance we jump Georgia. And to go from 7 to ahead of Georgia, even if Alabama, because if Alabama does that, then Alabama wins by 70 and like 5 Georgia players get hurt.
Right. And I'll put it this way. They haven't allowed you to jump Oregon for 5 weeks.
Yep.
You think they're going to put you ahead of Georgia?
No, and then you throw in the fact that Alabama jumping Texas just seems easier for these guys to make.
They want to do it.
Paul Feinbaum's going to be inside the room going after him. No, I get it, and I think head-to-head should matter, but I think there's also a point of if you say what's the best win this season and Alabama beats Georgia, that then becomes the best win of the season.
Yeah.
And so there is something to be said that the best win of the season is a Texas team going into a Tuscaloosa where Sark will keep saying they're 59-2 or something like that at home. Then you say, well, they were 30-1 now, and we're the one.
Right.
So I think that it kind of puts it into a situation where the pushing around and all the politicking and all that. If we had the full Big 12 behind us, then it may be a little different. But without that, you kind of need to go out there and show what's up. And you just need Florida State to lose. That's the reality.
That's the bottom line.
You need Florida State to lose. Or you know what? Michigan can lose too. They're not going to. They're going to destroy Iowa. But
can we do it based on the spread? Can we?
Spread,
can we get in if Michigan doesn't cover?
Yes. Just knock them out. Dexter says, I'm telling you, the committee has no scruples. They will easily put in 2 from some conference, most likely SEC when Bama beats UGA. I still don't get why everybody thinks Bama's going to beat Georgia.
If Bama beats Georgia, Paul Feinbaum will be outside the committee picketing going, Missouri should get in too.
Yes, Missouri should get into. Hey, Ole Miss had a pretty good season. You're going to make Josh Heupel cry. Put him in there. Pac-12 has beaten nobody this year. Uniforms don't get you wins. I'm with you. I don't think the Pac-12 there. I definitely don't think the ACC should. But again, if Washington State is undefeated, they should be in there. If Oregon beats a number 3 Washington, that gives them a really good win. And so it's just difficult to. It's the path we all should be looking at. And I get the whole Oregon thing, and I get everything else.
Louisville.
That's really the path that you're looking at. Is you're hoping that somebody spikes the water. Don't do it. It is not a. It's not a.
This is not a plea.
It's not a plea. Someone just fake gives Jordan the flu before the game, or gives him the bad pizza, whatever that thing he made up because he was gambling all night. See, it's a hungover Michael Jordan, like, no, coach, I got bad pizza and the flu and all the things.
Yeah. No, that is your most legitimate shot, Longhorns fans, because you will jump Ohio State like we talked about, and Oregon, Washington's a play-in. Louisville wins, and you take care of business, you should be good to go.
Still wish we had beat OU this weekend. It's this weekend to really help the resume, even if OSU is an easier win. And honestly, it's a few points. OSU, I think, is 17, and OU is 12.
I think they're pretty. Yeah.
It is. I get it, and you get an Avenger loss, but I don't think you're beating OU by 30. And I think the style point win is you can beat OSU by 30. So it's the spread would still be the same, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with playing OSU. I get the point of it, though.
I also love the idea that you win the Big 12 championship on the way out, and you also don't let any of the teams you're not likely to play again get scoreboard on you.
Yeah. That's what you'd like.
Yeah.
Let's talk some NFL real quick before we go to break. There is a big game happening tomorrow night.
Yes, there is.
There's a big game happening tomorrow night. The Seahawks are at the Cowboys. Cowboys are 9-point favorites in this game. Kenneth Walker is likely not to play in this game, so you do not have the very good running back in this game. You do have a Dallas team that has been playing really, really well.
Lights out.
Is this where Dallas gets to start off? They have a 5-game stretch coming up where they're going to be playing Seattle, then Philadelphia, then they go to Buffalo, then they go to Miami, and they finish it up with Detroit. So a stretch of 5 games that are challenging. These are all 5 plus 500 teams. They're decent teams. Some are very good teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't call this the beginning of the run though, because Seattle, they're above 500, but they're 6-5.
I know, but I'm saying these are 5 games above 500 teams. You've played a lot of teams under 500. The Cowboys have,
yeah,
and they've handled their business against them,
right?
And then you've played San Francisco and the Philadelphia, and you've not handled your business.
Yeah, sort of.
So the question is, can this team continue to play at that level, or is this a team like Dallas has had year in year out, where they look really, really good against bad teams and can't win against good teams? Or is this Texas team and Deron Bland, who people are now talking about Defensive Player of the Year and set the record for most pick sixes in a season with 5? Is he going to be a part of this? Are they going to be able to get it together? We know Shaquille Leonard has met with them. He hasn't signed with anybody yet, but Shaq Leonard may be joining this team in the linebacker core where they got a little weaker after the Leighton Vander Esch injury news.
Sure.
Is this a Dallas team that you feel really good about right now, Jacob? Because I know you're a Cowboys fan. Is this a team you feel good about going in these games, and you feel good that Seahawks, this is no problem, Cowboys are back?
I do feel good, and I'll say this. Dak Prescott is playing the best football of his career right now for this last 4 or 5 game stretch. The old Dak is in there, though, somewhere, and you saw it in that New York Giants game early when they got in the red zone, and he throws a slant route that is not there, gets picked off right away, and you saw it, and you immediately went, like me, if you're a Cowboys fan, you went, oh, no, he's back. Oh, no. But then he turns it around, so I do feel good about this Cowboys team because that's the one moment you saw old Dak. Tony Pollard, last 2 games, he's had at least one run where he looks like a feature running back. So we're making progress there. The Seahawks also lost to the Rams by 1 point earlier this season, since we're talking about like opponents with college football. The Cowboys smoked the Rams by 23.
They did.
So I like the Cowboys to cover in this one, the 9 points. And I like Micah Parsons to give us another Geno Smith soundbite when he stunts up the middle.
He stunts up the middle. Does it worry you at all that Aaron Rodgers has come out now and said that that Dak Prescott's really good? And he also, Aaron Rodgers, who is a great judge of coaches. We know that he has never gotten Denver to hire a coach who has been thought of as one of the worst coaches ever. And then he is now the offensive coordinator on the Jets, who without Aaron Rodgers have put up historically bad numbers offensively.
You mean without one of the top 3 QBs ever?
I'm just saying, but they're god awful right now.
Oh, they're
and
terrible.
they don't have an O-line either. I will say they don't have an O-line. But he said, he thinks Nathaniel Hackett's the guy. He also thinks Mike McCarthy's a really good coach. So a good judge of coaching is what Aaron Rodgers is. Do you think that that's kind of just, it feels like a death knell right there?
No, not at all. I'm not worried about what Aaron's doing. Aaron is, I appreciate Aaron. I also just can't stand him because he was a Packer that dominated the Cowboys for so long. But right now he's just trying to keep his name in the press because he opened up his practice window.
All right. And then do you feel that, lifetime Longhorn Emmanuel Acho, he came out and, he was just, because there's a lot of Dak MVP talk right now. There's a lot of Dak MVP talk. And people are going in, but they always puts up good numbers against bad teams. Is the Dak MVP talk going to continue? Here's Manny Acho talking directly to Micah Parsons, who Micah Parsons has been going after the media because Dak Prescott is unfairly criticized over more other players.
That's my quarterback, man.
No, and he is. Like, I fully on board that he is criticized more than other guys are because he's the Dallas Cowboys. I can't remember who said it earlier this year, but they were like, Josh Allen doesn't get criticized. Like, yeah, because no one cares.
That was Micah. Micah said that too.
No, but someone said it on ESPN. They know because they don't care because it's the Bills and no one really cares about the Bills.
That's probably Swagoo, the ex-Cowboy. That's probably.
But here's what Emmanuel Acho had to say in his argument of why Dallas Cowboys fans maybe need to be a little more quiet about the MVP talk.
Hi, Mike, I got to respond to you, but I'm on set because I have to work today. Not sure what you're doing. Yes, Dak Prescott is statistically as impressive, if not more impressive than Patrick Mahomes, but it's not the most statistically impressive award. It's the most valuable player award. I'm going to say something you might not be able to respond to, but I got to be honest. What game would Cooper Rush have lost that Dak Prescott has won? I think one game. The only game I believe that Dak Prescott won this year that Cooper Rush would have lost is the Chargers. That's it. So when I'm thinking about value, how can we say that Dak is more valuable than Patrick Mahomes? Statistically impressive, sure. But y'all still would have lost to the Niners and the Eagles had Cooper Rush played, and y'all still would have beat the Commanders and beat the Panthers and beat DeVito and beat the Giants again. Had Cooper played. Let's just be honest here. So is Dak more statistically impressive? Yes. But y'all got the Dolphins, y'all got the Bills, y'all got the Eagles left on the schedule, and the Seahawks. Dak can win MVP if he wins them games.
All right. All right. So that's laid out. He says, anybody could have beaten these guys. I mean, he said Cooper Rush, but anybody could have beaten these guys is basically his approach. And I mean, you're talking about the Giants who the Giants who defense won both those games.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about the Jets who, again, there's no Aaron Rodgers Jets. So they didn't have much offense. Defense handles that game. You're talking about the Cardinals, which you do lose. The Patriots, who don't have an offense. You lose to the 49ers. You beat the Chargers. He mentions, though, that's the game he'll give him.
Yep.
You beat the Rams. So maybe that's another one, possibly another one there. You lose to the Eagles. Giants, again, defense wins. Carolina, they're a dumpster fire. Washington, not doing great either. Right. So, in reality, maybe he was wrong by one game. Maybe he was wrong by the Rams game. Both LA teams. Maybe you needed.
I'll say this. I think both are right. I think both Micah and Emmanuel Acho are right because I agree that there wasn't a game that Cooper Rush would have lost. But that's because Cooper Rush is the second best quarterback in the league behind Dak. But my point is this. The offense, when it goes from Dak to Cooper Rush, we saw it in that 4-game gap last season where the offense goes from scoring 35 to 40 points a game to now they're winning games with 24 points, 21 points, somewhere in there. So I don't exactly agree with that being his counter-argument for why Dak can't be up for MVP. Because I think Dak adds those extra 20 points to that offense. And this is someone who has said some terrible things about Dak Prescott into this microphone. And he is proving me wrong this year, and I love it.
Is Dak in the MVP conversation in January?
I think so. Well, that's the stipulation, though, right? That's where I said they're both right. I think if he goes through that run right there.
No, but does he? I'm asking you to make a prediction. does Dak go through this run in the next 5 weeks, and does he play Dak Prescott MVP caliber football and win 4 out of 5 games? I'm not even going to say he has to win all 5.
Right.
He's got to beat the Eagles.
Okay.
Because you can't lose the Eagles
What's
twice.
the one he can give up?
I mean, anyone other than the Eagles. I just say
Okay.
you can't lose the Eagles twice and still tell me that you're a better quarterback. Like you have to beat him once.
Then yes, I think he's got a shot at it. I think these last 4 to 5 weeks have shown you what he's capable of. It's just you got to suppress that old Dak, that one that came out early in the Giants game.
This is what the Cowboys do every single year. Every single year. It just happened to be that normally there's staggered weeks of here's the bad teams and this bad
Right.
team, good team, bad team, good team. But they've always put up tons of points against bad teams.
And the MVP is decided at the end of the regular season. So this team that always gets to 12 or 13 wins, I think he has a shot at winning that award.
I don't necessarily believe in that, but I look. I think Dak's having a good time. I will say I think they have a good shot to go 3-2 in the next 5 games.
I would take that.
I think they have a good shot to go 3-2. The problem is I do think they lose to Philadelphia again, and I don't think it's even that close. I think
Wow.
Philadelphia has their number.
Wow.
I just don't have any faith in this Cowboys team against really good teams.
We lost by 3 in Philly.
I get that. I don't have a ton of faith in them.
Okay.
And then I think you're probably going to lose another one in there, whether it be Miami or Buffalo. I like the Miami-Buffalo game. The Buffalo games feels like it's a game where Deron Bland's going to get like 3 pick sixes.
I'm not
in that
worried about
game.
the Buffalo game. Yeah.
But it is in Buffalo. It depends on what the weather is in that game as well.
Sure.
Because once you get into bad weather games,
That's
in
Buffalo's favorite.
well, when Dallas doesn't have a running game
Yeah.
whatsoever,
right.
and I mean that's also partially these numbers for Dak, is they do not have a running game whatsoever. So their only running game is through passing, and Tony Pollard's getting like 50 yards a game on the ground. So you're having to create everything. So his numbers are inflated because the running game is going through Dak as well.
I'll say this too. Dak's numbers have been inflated in previous seasons due to garbage time because the other team gets such a massive lead on them and Dak is trying to get back.
Those Phillip Rivers numbers?
Right. Whereas this year it's different. Dak is building the lead on the opponent. That's the step, right?
Yeah. No, look, I think that Dak's having a great season. I think he should be in the MVP talk right now. I do believe that. I don't believe he's going to be in it in January.
Okay.
I just don't. I think that the defense is going to be what this team is based on, and this offense is going to start putting up really closer to numbers where you're going to see a lot more games that are 18-15
Sure.
and games that just are not necessarily big blowouts, but a lot more field goals attempted and things like that. Just because, it's easier when you're playing a bad team and you're like, let's throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
But once you start playing teams with schemes and players where you can get to the pressure on the quarterback,
Erase CeeDee Lamb and
those types of plays. So I still do think the Cowboys can go 3-5, but we're going to see on tomorrow night when they take on the Seahawks, just how much of this was those were some really, really bad teams.
Yeah.
And how much of this is no, we can go and handle, it's the next step up. Because again, this is a Seahawks team that's not great. They're 6-5 as you said, so they're a good team, but they're not a great team. They're not the Eagles. They're not the 49ers. And I don't know if any of those other teams, Buffalo can be at points, Miami can be at points, Detroit can be at points, but none of them are consistent enough. Philly is consistent enough. San Francisco, other than that 3-game stretch before the break when they just completely fell apart,
Yeah,
has
model
looked
of
really
consistency,
good.
huh?
Model of consistency other than that.
Yeah. No, I will say this, the last note on the Philly thing. People forget we lost that game, but it was 1st and 5, or it was 1st and goal from the 5 with 30 seconds to play in that game before we
That's
shot
right.
ourselves
That is
in the
right.
foot
Mike
with a
McCarthy and
penalty.
Dak Prescott cost them the game by not getting out to the line of scrimmage. And you can pick which one you want. You can blame it on both of them. But those two guys cost you a game if you want to go with that.
But that's my point. We went into Lincoln Financial Field, we clean up that penalty, and we're walking away with a win.
But this is why Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback.
Why is that?
Valdez Scantling cost him the game the other week because he threw the ball downfield and it was in the hands.
It was an offensive lineman that caused Dak that penalty.
Dak Prescott. There was like 3 penalties.
There was 3. That's why I said that penalty. I didn't say all of them.
All right, we got to take a break. We come back, we'll do some more NFL, we'll do some more NBA, and we'll get things going here. And more text line on the Sports Complex, on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex here on the Horn, playing Jimi Hendrix all week because Jimmy would have been his birthday on Monday. Jacob, this may be an age gap thing between us.
What you got?
Have you ever seen, I think it's Wayne's World 2 this is in?
No.
Oh, there's a scene where Garth is dancing at this. It's great. It's good. It's great stuff. This is what I think of with this is Wayne's World, or it's Wayne's World 2. I don't know which one it is.
Oh, me too. That's immediately what I go to.
What I think too. You have to give you so much homework to catch up on great classic comedy stuff.
Dude, I mean, that's a lot of years of stuff that I have to catch up on.
Well, no, you just have to keep asking me, and then I'll say, "Have you seen this?" And then, we'll over the next few months when you're on the show, and we'll keep finding more gems that you don't know, you have never heard of for whatever reason.
Okay,
that you just uncultured.
That's it.
Your parents just locked you in a closet and said, "Don't ever laugh."
Probably that one. That's
text line's open 512-447-3776. We were asking you all show if you still want to chime in. If any of the Big 12 awards, any of our Texas players got snubbed, and we're also asking you how many points does Texas need to beat Oklahoma State by on Saturday to really get that style point win and show them that they can jump Ohio State. Again, we know Florida State's got to lose.
Yeah,
we understand that this is not a no help situation. Sometimes you got to get a little help from your friends. You got to get that. But we'll see. Louisville, our good friends, Louisville.
Yeah. Well, I know every player on Louisville.
Look, we hired one of their coaches and then fired him a few years later. So we're buddies with them.
Yeah.
We're buddies with them.
Been watching them all season.
This texter says, I want Washington to win because something to Oregon. Can't say that word, but look, I get that Oregon now is getting a lot of hate from Texas fans because they shouldn't have been ahead of us this whole time, playing nobody and beat them. They're like the Cowboys. They just play bad teams and beat up on them. And then when it comes down to you gotta have a style win. They did 8 points against Texas Tech. That's all they could do. We did 50-point win against Texas Tech. We're like the Eagles or the 49ers, like a good team.
You're putting me in an impossible position here.
By the way, listeners, I'm literally doing this just to mess with Jacob across the I don't want to compare us to the Eagles either. Lifelong Pac-12 fan, year in and year out, Pac-12 beats each other up. They play in the weakest conference, and when they see the big boys, they get crushed. A one-loss Texas is far better than Oregon or Washington. I appreciate that. I don't know if you're really a lifelong Pac-12 fan or you just said it on the text line, but I appreciate your text.
That sounds like a sad existence.
Well, no, they're a Big Ten fan now.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
They're a Big Ten fan now.
Or will you stick with the Pac-12 or the Pac-2?
The Pac-2?
The Pac-2.
I love that they're having court hearings about judging and what can we do? And you're like, guys, just find another conference.
I also love that they gave them just all the power for the conference. The two teams that are sticking around.
I think what's funny is they really, in both their heads, I'm pretty sure they think like, well, we'll be able to make more money if we do this.
We just do this. Yeah.
And you're like, no one cares about you guys.
Right.
Plus, I've now heard that the quarterback of Washington State is transferring.
Oh, no.
That he's got all the offers.
Oh, no.
When they come out and they go, he's got $78 million in offers from all these schools.
We've evaluated he could be the first billionaire college athlete.
Was that Bronny? That Bronny, the first billionaire?
Probably.
We gave up our ceiling for this season when we coughed up the number 3 spot and lost to OU. Seriously to them. When in modern history has UT competed for a national championship by anything other than an undefeated season? Please prove me wrong, College Football Playoff Committee. Random texter number 69. Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's also, we're not normally in that position. The College Football Playoff has not been around that long. Now, it used to be you had to be BCS, so you had to be a top 2 team, so it normally was undefeated teams. And so the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
That Texas just hasn't been good since the College Football Playoff Committee really had started in the playoffs. So it's changed a little bit, so they haven't been able to get in there and be in this playoff race. But they're not a top 2 team. We know that. You're just trying to give me a top 4 team. And I think Texas has been top 4 and number 1 team as a one-loss team multiple times. They just haven't been number 1.
And I'll say this, the last year they're going to do 4. If you're a college football fan, just enjoy this because this is the most chaos they've had around the top 4 at the end of the season. Yeah, and this is the last year you're going to have
I will enjoy it if Texas is in. I will not enjoy it if Texas is out.
Because I'm telling you, the debate between 12 and 10 to 13 and 15 is not going to be near as ferocious.
This texture says Acho is the worst.
I agree.
My man Nate says, tell me the Chiefs' impressive wins. The impressive wins media is annoying. My guy, PD, apparently they've only played and lost 2 games to you. I am somewhat messing with Jacob, everybody, but also...
I guess that wasn't apparent.
Somewhat messing with him. I do also believe that the Cowboys beating bad teams means nothing to me now because I've seen them do it for so many years that it really doesn't mean as much to me. You have to beat the game. You just have to win the games where when you're an underdog, when you're the team that's supposed to go in there. And Seattle's a perfect example. I don't need you to beat great teams. I need you to go and handle your business against Seattle, and then it changes. Okay, I'll tell you, I do have them as beating 3 out of the next 5 games. I went through and played the schedule game. I've been winning 3 out of the next 5. I just don't know. I'll put it that way. I don't care that they beat a crappy Giants team. I don't care that they beat all these. I don't care if you beat it. I just don't care. The Commanders, I don't care. It doesn't mean and I get the Texans. You can say the same thing. It doesn't. Those in the NFL doesn't. When a team is practically tanking when you're playing them,
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily be wow, you put up 45. Like, yeah, they didn't. The players don't want to be there. You know, in college, I think there's this clock on a lot of these players where they still want to be in there. In the NFL, there's not that clock on them necessarily where they feel like this is my next season. I'm going to the NFL and I can never win on this team. I'm going to move on. Where the players in the NFL don't necessarily have that loyalty to the teams that they pick or that are drafted by. And they don't necessarily have that same clock that they're going to fight for every inch when they're down by 20 in a game where their season's over.
They also don't want to put bad tape out there, though.
They
for
don't.
That next
but
contract.
I'm saying that difference of fighting for it, where when we talk about it being a game of inches, and you are really worried about, like, how many times on a bad team do you see a guy cutting across the middle and just not make the catch?
Quite often.
And just be like, I'm about to get lit up. I'm not getting lit up. Don't care. Not getting lit up. That happens a lot. And so I get it. You need to win them. If you don't win them, you're an awful team. You're one of them. If you don't, they're definitely not one of them.
No.
Dallas Cowboys are good, but I still haven't seen. And look, it's reality versus expectations. I have an expectation for the Cowboys that I wanted them to be better this season, and they don't look any better to me this season than they looked in years past or last year. They look like the same team as last year, and I think that they made bad decisions. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair. And if there was tiers to NFL teams, there's the bottom and the elite, right? The Cowboys are in the middle, but they're like upper middle, so they're in this weird spot right now.
Yes. WPI Parts Guy is with me. It's a horrible, hilarious now. Dana Carvey is such a dork. That is the Foxy Lady. If you see the GIF from WPI Parts Guy,
I will look.
That is a GIF there. You're gonna have to look. You can't tell me it's not comedy gold. You found out about Triumph the Insult Comic Dog today. Send him home with lots of homework.
I did find out about that today. That's the Foxy Lady. Okay, I see it now. That's
I don't care. We would beat Florida State. The committee has to take into account their QB situation. Put the best 4 teams in. Brandon, I get it. I get your point.
Wouldn't that be
That
awesome?
is why they need to expand the playoffs, is exactly your point. But that is not what they're looking at this year.
No.
Unfortunately, undefeated teams, regular season matters. That's the reason why college football is great every single week, is because you can be on pins and needles, because you're it's a 3-point game, and it's non-conference, and it matters because this late in the season, we're still talking about that week 2 Alabama-Texas game.
Yeah.
That's why it matters. And so when you start to take that away, it takes away at the points. It takes away the greatness of college football.
Your season's on the line every snap.
If you want to get to the Horn FM X site, Twitter site, it is twitter.com/thehornatx is our Twitter handle /X. And I believe X directs you still back to twitter.com, I think.
If you just type X?
I think if you type x.com, it takes you to twitter.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. You know what? I don't, if you're listening, Elon, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me and take me out with one of your space lasers. Chan also says 21 points over OSU. I think that's reasonable. I think that's kind of, if you do that, it's leaving it a little bit more in the committee's mind. I think 25 to 30 is where we start to get in the range where you're kind of taking it out of the committee's hands a little bit more. And a Florida State loss. We always put that in there.
That's like the disclaimer at the end of like a medicine commercial. It's like, and with the Florida State loss.
How many times have there been more than 2 undefeated playoff teams? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I know it's the first time this late in the season there has been 4.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. It wasn't planning for no 1-loss teams to be in. So that is, and I think one of them, the Washington they're a little bit more skeptical about too because they didn't necessarily have the best non-con either. So they're not thrilled about them. So they'd rather have Oregon in, who played Texas Tech. Whoopee. By the way, how much did they beat Texas Tech by?
I believe it was 8.
Oh, that's funny because we beat them by 50.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. Just throwing that out
Wow.
there.
Have you mentioned that yet?
I mentioned that yet. You play who's on your schedule. You do. You also schedule non-conference games.
Right.
And so I'll give Florida State, they scheduled LSU. I'll give Ohio State, they scheduled Notre Dame. I'll give, I can give some of these schools that they tried. They scheduled perennial teams that are normally ranked. I will be fine with those teams that you're going up against. That's why I like Texas scheduled Alabama. And they have Michigan next year. That's why you have those games in there. So you can't tell me if you don't have any of those scheduled and the team you scheduled 5 years ago wasn't good then and they're not good now, then that argument's gone. I agree. Conference-wise, you play, you schedule, but tough. You didn't play. Like the Big 12 has to deal with that too.
Yeah.
The Big 12 would get beat out by an SEC team. But basically the SEC right now is the only conference that has a lot of teams and are stacked that you're playing 4 or 5 hard games. The Big 10 has one hard game for most of these teams and then one mediocre team and then nothing else. Everything else is pretty much a cakewalk if you're one of the good teams.
I know. They're all scared of when they have to play Iowa.
They're all scared. They're all scared of how boring the game is going to be. The ratings will be awful. Final text we'll get to, and then we got to take one more break. Now I can't get that scene out of my head. Oh, we got that one. I appreciate everybody texting in. We got to take one more break. We'll see if we can get to any other conversation before we get out of here on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. All right, wrapping things up here on the Sports Complex. Thanks to my man Jacob Standard for coming in. I think we're going to see more from him as the show goes to 4 to 6 starting on Monday. We got a big show on Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. with Aaron Hogan and some special guests out in Dallas. A big pregame on Saturday, 8 to 11. That'll be happening with as many people as we can fit into it on getting you ready for the Big 12 championship game. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk more and more Cowboys. And I won't have Jacob here, so I'll be more Cowboys favored tomorrow. We talk about that and get their big Thursday night matchup. But until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we will see you right back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock on the Sports Complex.